we're going to dive into one of my favorite topics, strategic planning. Right? Who's excited to actually have a plan, a strategic plan? She's already raising her hand. Well, to have a plan, for one, let alone a strategic plan that not only leads you up to and through your book launch, but also identifies the next 1 to 2 business development possibilities that that book enables, right? We in the right place still? Good. Because what you're going to do is leave this weekend with a strategic plan. And the extent to which it's complete is a process, right? And it doesn't have to be entirely complete. And fortunately, I've tried to demystify this and make this the most simple exercise possible. Like one of our other speakers this weekend, Casper, who wrote Mind Lift, Mental Fitness for the Modern Mind, likes to say, some processes are simple yet difficult. Think about that for a second. It's not a complex task to do planning. As you'll see, it's only writing 7 or 8 sentences about your situation now, 7 or 8 sentences about where you want to be in 12 months, then identifying a few key metrics to track to let you know you're on the right road. But it's difficult because how often do we actually carve out the time to do that? How often can we separate ourselves from the day-to-day activities and whatever family responsibilities, work responsibilities, whatever it is, it can be difficult to carve out the time when you sit and say, here's what I really want to accomplish over the next 12 months. Here are the ways that I know I'll be on track. That's high leverage time that's being spent. And so I have a strategic planning exercise. But first, instead of just giving you guys another exercise, I'm going to talk through it. I'm going to describe it in a little detail, and I'm actually going to use our own my own strategic plan for Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press moving forward, so you can see an example, and then you'll ultimately get your own in place and get to cross-pollinate that with the other people that are here in attendance. And so, simply put, here's the exercise. And at some point, Ryan, we don't need to pass anything out yet, but we've got this printed out for you guys. So before I get to that, let me just talk to you about what it is. So this strategic plan, we want to look out about 12 months into the future. So you've got your current situation, which we've started to be working up to with the exercises we've done so far. It's really about describing the situation that you're currently in with your book, with your business as it exists, with your personal brand, your presence online, the audience that you have in whatever shape or form. Just describing that, and I'll show you an example from mine before we start. And then the important part is what's in the upper right of this exercise, that desired situation. And that's now writing in present tense language, looking back what you've accomplished over the last 12 months. Let me say that again. In the top right, it's October 28th, 2017, and you are describing the current state of your business, the current state of where your book is at, the current state of your audience size and your impact and the development of what you've put together, looking back over the last 12 months. Couldn't be more important to emphasize that it's in present tense and looking back over what's already happened. From there, we're going to identify up to 6 key indicators. And these are just the metrics that you track that let you know that you're on course. And you have where they're at now, where they're at today, and where they're going to be in 12 months. And that's the first part of the exercise. And it's the most important part. And it's only a 2-part exercise. So once we get this done, we're in pretty good shape. But before we start, and I know that we're handing out these so that we all have them. Oh. You're wonderful. Thank you. Laura Gisborne, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to actually share our own plan under development. Would that be helpful? Anybody like to see what we've got going on behind the scenes at Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press for the next 12 months? Except for last Tuesday when I ran this and there was an open invite online training for people in my audience to join, this hasn't been shared with anybody else. And I don't really plan on sharing it in too many other public environments. So this is for us that showed up here, and this is our actual planning process, my actual strategic plan moving over the next 12 months. So here it is. On the current situation and the desired situation, before I even read it, just notice we're talking about 6 or 7 sentences, right? So this doesn't have to be, business planning doesn't have to be this huge affair where you're writing a 50-page document and preparing all of this complex stuff, right? Business planning, especially strategy, can exist in a more succinct form. So I'll share this with you. Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press, this is current situation, is a fast-growing modern publishing company working with authors in the personal development, entrepreneurship, self-help, and spiritual genres. Our done-for-you publishing and book launch package is a $7,500 and 40% of royalties package and delivers a turnkey experience for authors to launch a beautiful book that positions them for business growth and brand development. We have 21 books in the market, 10 more under contract and in production, and are in ongoing conversations with dozens of authors. We have a world-class acquisitions editor and a team of designers and layout specialists that I'm proud of. Some of our pioneering approaches to book launches are beginning to pay off, and we're developing deeper relationships with promotional partners and service providers like Publishizer and 99 Designs, each of whom you'll hear more about over the course of this weekend. The Book Business and Brand Building Summit grew our audience by over 7,000 people, and we had 46 promotional partners. Bestseller Summit Live has over 50 people registered and will be my most high-impact training experience thus far. So that's present tense, right? It's right now. And you can see where there are some specifics that will probably show up in the key indicators column, number of books, a few other things which I'll speak to in a moment. But really, it's just a present tense, natural language description of where you're at, also looking at it holistically. What you've been involved with in the recent times, like the summit we ran in summer, the Book Business Brand Building Summit, that's still recent enough where it falls within this current situation. What's been going on this year to date? But here's the exciting part. After you've got that down, is where are we going, right? And so in present tense language, this time next year, 2017, Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press is a nationally distributed publishing company through Ingram Publishing Services, capable of co-publishing a New York Times bestseller. Our done-for-you publishing and book launch is a $20,000 service package that includes visual branding, website development, and business development strategy, and we're publishing partners with our authors at 50%. We have 50 books in the market, 15 more in production, and have more inbound interest in publishing than ever before. We have a cohesive, experienced team that serves our authors, from editing and design to marketing, strategy, and business development. We continue to innovate on unique and powerful ways to launch books, build audiences, and enroll readers in the deeper learning experiences available to them from our author entrepreneurs. This year's Bestseller Summit Online has an audience of 15,000 plus and generates 6 figures in business. The related Money Marketing and Sales Secrets live event in June had over 150 people in the room and gross revenue of $250,000 plus. The 3rd annual Bestseller Summit Live has 125 plus attendees, all of whom have a fun, transformative experience. So how's that sound? Is that a pretty compelling vision for the future? One of the great things about having this event and teaching strategic planning is, guess what? That's right. I get to walk my own talk. So in truth, there it is, October 25th. So this is real time now. And actually, I'm making light of it, but I actually purposefully waited until this week to write this. And it'll go through another round of revision or two. But I want to give you guys a view of like real time now, what things look like both strategically and as the example for this exercise, which you will all do as well. So the second part, and don't bother with what's down below just yet, but looking at these key indicators, here's where we start to get into the numbers and to the details, perhaps for the first time since we all came in here. Right? And so these are the metrics that I track. Our audience size, 20,500 plus via email, catalog size, 31 books, total number that are published plus the ones that are under contract that we're working with those authors now. Revenues trailing 12 months, 225,000. Online event attendance, 7,000 plus. Live event attendance, 50 plus. Right? So now, as you see, the gap, right? Those were today's metrics, and now 12 months from now, we want to build the bridge on the exact same metrics to where you want to be next year. So for us, that looks like an audience size of 45,000 plus via email. I love having you guys all here in a room, and before I started doing live events, I did a lot more stuff online, right? So we have a larger audience via email than I even necessarily do here on a stage in a room. And that's something that I definitely plan on growing. So it's something we're going to talk a lot about tomorrow and on Sunday, specifically how to build your audiences in creative and fun ways. But I digress. Catalog size, 50 plus books, revenues, trailing 12 months, 450,000, online event attendance, 15,000, live event attendance, 125 plus. So here's the important things to take away. One, yes, I'm using my own numbers here to show you examples. Two, you don't have to use these metrics. If you don't run a publishing company, catalog size isn't going to be one of your key metrics, right? But you should know what those are. And if you have questions, we'll talk about them. If you're coaching clients, what's the size of your roster now in the future? Maybe it's revenue per client. Whatever those metrics are, we'll have a dialogue around them, but then you want to get clear on the, I'd say, 4 to 6 key ones that you want to track. Because the next part of the exercise, which we're not going to get into right in this section, is putting specific actions on the calendar that are going to fill that gap. But let me first speak to the difference between where we're at now and 12 months from now, and why we do a strategic planning process that only goes over the course of a year. In my opinion, and in my experience, 12 months is enough time where a lot could happen, but you still have enough control over the variables that it realistically could happen. I feel like planning 3 years, 5 years out in advance, at a certain point, a couple years in, so many new variables can be introduced that unless you're constantly refining that plan, you may have different priorities even. So I think within 12 months, it's both ambitious and realistic to be able to put a stake in the ground and say, what do you want to accomplish over these next 12 months? And that is exactly what I'm asking everybody here to do. But it's also realistic because in 12 months, I think a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a week or in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year, in 3 years. Anybody with me on that? Yeah. Overestimate what you think you can accomplish any given day or a week. And maybe that plays into a working harder and feeling stressed or feeling like you're not accomplishing something. It's also easy to lose perspective of what we can actually accomplish over the course of a year, even in 6 months. So here's my advice. If you can see, the distance between these is about 2 to 3x, right? 200 to 300%. And here's why that's important. That, as well as a 12-month outlook, is both realistic and ambitious. That's what we want here. This isn't about just getting people, all of you pumped up and be like, I'm going to grow $1 million business by next year. If it happens, you'll be on stage, that's for sure. But I don't want you to set an expectation that is so high that it almost builds into it the fact that it's not going to happen. You guys with me? I know a lot of people teach, a 10x, we're going to 10x our revenues this year. We're going to 10x stuff like that. And look, that's great. I'm not up here to smack talk anybody, but 10x in practice over the course of a year, what does that look like? So if we have 31 books now, am I really going to have 310 books this time next year published? Right. A little bit tricky. If we got trailing 12 months, 225,000. Are we going to be a multi-million-dollar business next year? Hey, if it happens, be the first to celebrate. But looking at 2 to 3 times as a multiple is realistic and ambitious. It's no joke to go from 20,000 to 45,000 people on an email, right? That's doubling plus already pretty decent sized reach, right? To go from 30 to 50 books, not even fully doubling, but something that I absolutely want to hit, right? It's very valuable to me. And the other point here is, so 12 months is, so here's the 3 main takeaways on the strategic plan. One, well, I guess the 4 main, one is to have a strategic plan. But most importantly, that you have a strategic plan that stretches out over a realistic amount of time, 12 months for our purposes, that the metrics you identify are actually the ones that are important to you and will be determinants of your success, however you define it, and that the spectrum or the growth that you wish to accomplish over the next 12 months is both realistic and ambitious. So maybe 2 to 3 times, right? Because what happens, even if you shoot for doubling the number of books that we have, and then maybe it's only 70%. It didn't double, but we grew the catalog 70%. That still ends up being a win, right? So what I want here is, in the course of doing strategic planning, that you're setting yourself up to win, not setting yourself up for disappointment. Too many times we've set ourselves up for disappointment by having overly ambitious expectations and too limited amount of time or resources or team to support them. Anybody feel me on that one? Right, so we want to set ourselves up for success. So before we jump in, and this will be the last exercise we do before lunch, and then at lunch, I want you guys to be masterminding and talking amongst yourselves about your strategic plan and this vision. But we want to take some time for one, before we start, if you have any questions for me about this, then let's talk about it. And then we're going to take some time and you actually write your narrative description of where you're at now and where you'll be 12 months from now. You don't even need to do the key indicators, the key metrics. But this right here, this top right, this is the high-level strategy for Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. In other words, there's nothing else behind this. There's nothing else above and beyond this that exists, right? And yet, it's only 7 or 8 sentences. So can we distill that down? Can you distill that down, given what you know now about where you are and what you know now about where you want to go and what you want to accomplish? Do we have any questions on this? Yes, let's do questions before we start the exercise. Allison. And, yeah, just go ahead.
So my question is, this incorporates the book, the business, and the brand, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's high level. And you can see, like, on my narrative description, I put, we have 21 books in the market, 10 more in production. Similarly, a year from now, we have 50 books in the market, 15 more in production. Right? So that's, well, in my case, a book and a business metric. But you can describe them like if it's revenue or what you're charging, right? You can see how I sort of mapped from one side to the other similar things on each side of the equation, right?
So I guess, and I do see that, thank you. So if we're focusing on one of the three Bs, do we just do that for the next 12 months, or do we try and incorporate each?
Spoiler alert, they're all intimately intertwined. And I can expand on that. She's asking about one of the three Bs, your book, business, or brand. If your book's not done and out, then that is the one contingency. If your book is out, then the business development, the branding, it's all part of the same game. So you should look at it as such, holistically, not in isolation. Sound good?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Reparata.
So what do you see, like our book is out already, and I'm looking at, promoting it through social media, lead pages, so how much capital investment should you set aside?
Well, I think I would put that as a metric. So you could say on the one column, or just on the description, what have we invested and spent? What are we spending right now, like this year? And when I say we, I mean you and Gordon. I know you and Gordon are a team. You say, what have we invested? Time, energy, money this year. Does that look different in terms of absolute numbers? More time, more money? It could be one of the metrics. Because there's not a right answer. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to show you the behind-the-scenes process of we are preparing, as I said here, the #1 sentence, co-publishing a New York Times bestseller. That train has been in motion for months. And it's a totally different planning process than fill in the blank with any other type of book, any other type of promotion. Laura, come on up, Laura.
I so appreciate you.
I should have had you up here the whole time.
I know. It's okay. So, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but I know some of you are feeling a little overwhelmed by this exercise, and Jesse's kind of genius at this. This is one of the reasons that we partner, because this is kind of his area of brilliance. And for the rest of us as mere mortals that don't think this way, I just want to give you a few hints on how to make it a little simpler, if I may.
But see how much fun we had for the first couple hours before we got into a real exercise?
I know.
Laura's helped me with that. My MO would have just been to dive right into strategic planning.
I know, and then the rest of us, especially the women in the room, we need a little warming up.
Got
We
a
need little help.
great ratio in
So,
here. Great ratio.
Yes, we do. We always do. So what I would say is this: if you're new in business, if this is kind of those things where you're saying like, I have an aspiration of where I'm going. I mean, some of you have amazing clarity about your mission and who you're here to help. And tell me your name. Right. Laura, nice to meet you. So for those of you that are like already there, great. For the rest of us, what I would say is, yes, business, book, brand. There's a lot of things that are very integrated, and Jesse's going to go through that because I already know what we're going to talk about for the next 3 days. So don't let it be a stopping point. I talked this morning in the meditation about your big vision, your big dream of what it looks like. Be kind to yourself in this exercise is my request. Look at what can I do right now that feels doable? What are the steps that I already know? And then trust that as the weekend evolves, you're going to get more clarity on the other pieces to plug in, because nobody in here, I don't think, well, let me not say nobody, because there might be somebody in the room who's actually, an internet marketing strategist genius, and that's what they do for a living. But for the rest of us that are really called to be messengers and speakers and authors, our work is to bring the message and bring the love. And how to get there is actually why you're here in the room this weekend, is to get the tools. So be kind to yourself, write down what feels like makes sense for you right now, and know that as we go through the exercises over the next couple of days, it's a great place to say, hey, I'm feeling stuck about this, and ask questions and get the support that you need, because this actually is a place where he geeks out. So, you want to, as you're building your business, you want to find geeks to surround yourself with, like whatever somebody geeks out on.
I don't self-identify as a geek, but I've been told that I am.
No, but the thing that he geeks out on is this place, right? This is why he's the person I go to for strategic planning in our organization, because it's his passion, right? So if this isn't your passion, just be kind to yourself and write down what you know that you know, and then trust that the rest is going to come over the course of the weekend. Okay? That's all.
Is that helpful? Isn't it great to get a female perspective?
Yay. Okay.
Not
I'll
only
get off
one.
the
I mean,
That's
you're
all right.
not just Vanna White. Like Laura Gisborne, as you'll come to know, has started 9 businesses, like sold 6 of them, has an amazing community of women, does huge things in philanthropy, and still she's here. You know, I'm so thankful.
Being your partner.
Yeah, I must have put you in my strategic plan a couple of years ago, and
I'm still there. I
You
saw
are
your
still
name.
there.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
yes, you are.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You saw your name in there.
Okay, good. All
Look,
right.
there she
So
is.
that's
part
all I
of my
wanted to share.
strategic
Thank
plan.
you. All right.
Thank you, Laura.
Sure.
Any other questions, or shall we just begin?
So just any
Yeah.
questions? Any questions that
So
people
let's
have
work
as
on
we,
this, yeah.
you know, really.
And Laura and I will
We're-
walk
we're here.
around. Let's put some real chill music on and get to work. Just keeping in mind Laura's advice, be generous with yourself, be gentle. You don't need to know all of this right now. And know that this is a simple exercise, but it can be difficult. Hey, how are you? Good. What's your name, buddy? Everybody, all your big visions, all your strategic plans coming into focus. Some great conversations going on out there for sure. How's this exercise? How's this morning so far? You guys getting ready for some food? Good. Well, before we get there, the lovely Laura Gisborne is going to share a couple thoughts with you.
Okay.
And then we're going to eat lunch.
And then Jesse's going to tell us where we're going to eat lunch.
That's correct.
Because right now, it's on a need-to-know basis. We
Yeah,
all need to
so-
know, and we don't know. All right, so when I was walking around, and you don't need to raise your hands on this one either, but when I was walking around, there were several conversations that I had around the not enough conversation. Not enough. Do you ever experience that, Carol Ann? Yeah, so most of us mere mortals do. And there's also a thing that happens when we do this type of exercise where we tend to, as human beings, look at all the places that we're not instead of actually celebrating what we are. Does that make sense? A little bit? You know, there's kind of this idea of like, well, I don't have a big enough list, or I'm not, you know, who's going to want to promote for me because I'm not set up as an affiliate. And these kind of conversations, as fascinating as they might be to give ourselves mental masturbation, don't actually help us get into action to help others, which is what we're here to do. So I just wanted to take a moment to speak with you about what lives in the world, right? What lives in the world is this opportunity for us as messengers to really help others. And it's the best way I know to get out of the not enough conversation is to be of service to another human being. Right? So at lunchtime, what I'm going to invite you to do you remember your vision exercise this morning? I realize that we've done a lot in a short period of time. Yeah? Your vision? So what I'd like you to do is think right now, are there 5 people on the planet that you could help by living your vision? Yeah? How many people know there are 5 people on the planet that could help? Okay, great. And how many people know that there are 100 people on the planet that they could help if they actually lived their vision and had the courage to do it? Okay. And how many people believe that there might be 10,000 people that they could help if they actually got out of their own way and got into action and helped the people that are on the journey struggling unnecessarily because they don't know it could be different? Yeah? Okay, I see almost every hand in the room. Now, when we get called and we have a mission and we have a vision and we don't share our goodies, do you think that's generous or do you think that might be stingy? I got giggles. How many people think it's generous to hold back? I got no hands. How many people think it's amazing to share your vision? All right, but what happens is we don't do it because we think we're not enough. There's this little thing in science, and we have other people in the room that are going to talk about brain science, but it has something to do with like one egg and 50,000 sperm. Get the idea? God thought you were a good idea. Somewhere we decided we weren't a good idea, or we weren't enough, or someday we're gonna get there. And what has to happen is that each of us has to own what we can do, right? Not what somebody else is doing, because if there's 7.3 billion people, and you reach 1 million people, and you reach 1 million people, and you reach 1 million people, and so on, and so on, and so on, right? There used to be a commercial about this, those of you that are old enough to remember. We're still not going to reach them all. And there's a lot of suffering in the world. And it's not someday when I get the money or when I get it together, it's now. And I was just sharing, a friend of mine, Lynn Twist, used to work with Mother Teresa, and she was talking about sufficiency. And one of the things that she said is, I think Mother Teresa at one point ran 140 centers, and Lynn asked her how she funded them, and what kind of savings she had, and what kind of programs she had. She said, I funded them with prayer. Now, I'm going to talk to you a lot about money tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the real poop, and as Jesse said, I've owned 9 companies, I've sold 6 of them, I know a little bit about money. I know a lot about making money. I've learned how to keep it and grow it, but in this conversation, in this context, I want you guys to stop playing small and stop feeling like you're not enough, and just play with us a little bit. Just have some fun in the what if. What if you actually could help others with your message? And what if you were in the right room right now to be fully supported? Yeah? And at lunchtime, I'd like you to share with a person you've never met before what you came up with this morning. We were talking about your vision. And share from your heart who's going to be helped. You know? Because I always say it's not about the money. It's great to make money. I love making money. It's a beautiful thing. But money comes to us and through us in direct proportion to service. And we get to be of service, right? And your message is here to serve others. So I'd like you to, is anybody willing to do this at lunch? Raise your hand. Yes? Okay, who's excited about it? Oh, a few of you, thank God. All right, just make it fun. You know, this is a great way for you to get to know each other, and there's something about sharing your message, and Jesse had asked us earlier, like how many people have actually spoken your truth into the public. It's a little scary sometimes, but you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and part of the vulnerability piece, Dan, right, the authenticity, is having the courage, you know, to show up and be of service, and this is a great opportunity for you, so. Oh, and look, here's the Buddha. Oh,
Yep.
okay, and it's lunchtime.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Thank
good. Where are
you.
we
Thank
eating?
you, Laura.
Okay. Tell us.
And
where
hang
we're
out for
eating.
a second.
Okay.
I pretty much end each session with this slide because this is how we all need to be in the face of technology and planning and strategy and cerebral stuff. Just take a deep breath. There's plenty of time.